Welcome everyone to 7 things you should do when organizing national juries. I thought I'd make it a little bit easier for people to engage with the specific elements and steps. But first of all, let me just get to the right place. We just wanted to put, for people who randomly arrive on at this and don't know what we're talking about, Wiki Loves Africa is an international competition that focuses on entries specifically from Africa that are uploaded into the Wikimedia space. And the entries from Africa each year reflect a specific theme. And this is run at an international level by Wiki In Africa, which is the organization that has hosted it for a while. But the people behind Wiki In Africa, Florence Devoide and myself, were the people who we created Wiki Loves Africa in the start and launched it in 2014 to the Wikimedia community. So the whole contest is run at an international level, but as you know, those of you who have joined me today, it is also run in a federated way. So there is a centralized group, which is the international team, that organizes the whole contest, but each of the volunteer or user groups who are involved or wish to be involved are autonomous in how they run it, in how they contribute in their way to Wiki Loves Africa. And it's done that way because there are so many different types of organizations, but there's also very many different contexts across Africa, and some people can only contribute in certain ways, and we didn't want to prescribe how people organize themselves. So by being federated, it means that there's multiple ways that you can do things. And in this idea of having local juries or having some kind of local selection or local celebration of the images that come through their processes and their activities, it's a way for it means that you guys have some access to celebrate the hard work that you've done. But it also means that we have the ability to see how you work and how interesting, and what the different contexts are and what you value as well. So it's a give and take on both sides. And because in some of the Wiki Loves photo contests, it's only those local organizers that have photographs that go into the competition, the final international competition. But how we run Wiki Loves Africa is very different in that every single entry that comes through has the chance to go towards the international competition. So if there is a country that doesn't have a local organizing team, or is that there is a country that does have a local organizing team, but that local organizing team is not doing a national jury process, that's fine. But those photographs will still be considered, or those videos or those audio. And so that's why we have this multi-layered complex system, which we enjoy, but it also means that we like to provide guidelines. So we're not prescribing that you do this, but we do encourage you to very heavily consider some of the things I'm going to raise today. Okay. So there are international prizes that, as I've said, are in no way influenced by the local prize system, but the local prizes have their value. And so we'll move on to the local juries. So why have local juries? Why is it important? Why should you, as a local organizer, consider doing local juries? And in a way, it's something I hope that you considered before the contest, but I'm only at the moment reiterating this because I think it's an important part of the process. It helps to it's a great celebration for the community and the organizers themselves. It's a way for your local community to end with a nice positive outcome. It's a high-profile event that helps to create visibility, and it also helps to create verifiability as such, or it allows the contest from being a group of organizers to having these beautiful images that are being celebrated from photographers. It encourages quality entries. In some cases, that's been a bit of a dodgy thing, but it should encourage quality entries, because if you have prizes, people are more likely, professional photographers are more likely to engage. But it also, by having several years of quality first and second and third prize winners, it sets a bar, it sets a quality bar. It's loved by local press. Local press love having photographs because they take up space, and especially in print. And they love to cover things that actually celebrate your own community and your own nation. And I know that we have somebody here from Nigeria, and I'm sure the local press would love to celebrate your local area over a whole national area or an international area. So I think it's a lovely hook for you to get press engagement, and which also adds to the visibility. It's a lovely way of celebrating local photographers and launching the career, in some cases, of local photographers and creatives. By having local juries, you can also encourage professional photographers to be on those juries, and we will discuss that in more depth just now. And by having those professional photographers on those juries, you also encourage, you introduce them to the contest. So even if they haven't yet engaged with the contest, they might next year, and they will tell their community and they will tell their other professional colleagues to engage and to get involved. And it also gives an alternative perspective on the Wikimedia movement. So in many ways, the Wikimedia movement external to us is all about kind of Wikipedia. And by showing photographs and including photographs, it allows, or showing something like Wiki Loves Africa, it shows that there are other ways of engaging, there are other aspects that are important, and it allows us to be more nuanced about what the Wikimedia user group or volunteer group that you're part of, why it's important that you're engaged. So it gives you a different talking point to this article about so-and-so, or this article about some dam somewhere. Okay? Any questions about that, about the benefits of having a local jury? No? Okay, so we're going to move on to point 2. And point 2 is a discussion that you should have had ages ago, but it is still an important discussion, which is about the prizes. So if you are going to have a local jury, what prizes are you going to offer? So not as in, and that's something that will come up just now, but as in, what is important? Like if you are, say, so in Côte d'Ivoire, the person who's organizing Wiki Loves Africa events there is a filmmaker. And so to him, the video categories are very important because he's doing training about that. So therefore, he wants to have an ability to celebrate video training. I'm not saying that he is running a local jury on that, but so therefore videos are important to him. But it could also be like, so the categories don't have to just be, say, a quality image. It could be the best image of a local traditional food, or it could be the best representation of a farm, of an agricultural environment. I'm just using this theme for this year, Farm to Plate, as an example, but there are many others. So in other cases, we've had categories that are specific to traditional interpretations. So it would be about showing specific cultural elements, or it could be about, say, we had women in sport. When we were doing play, we had a woman like category in order to make sure that women were seen or represented. So it could be women in farming, or, it depends on what is important to your local group. So yes, quality absolutely is number one, but we also think about what's important to you as a collective and what you want. I'm not trying to determine anything, so you guys decide, because that's your prerogative. But what is important to you as a community, and which images you really want to reflect that community. Yes. So, and then in order to entice people, how are you going to reward people? So if they win in that category, what is their reward? And the reward doesn't necessarily have to be cash. We only do cash because it's virtually impossible to do anything else transferred across the world, around the world. It's really difficult, say, to give equipment or vouchers, or say, I don't know, exhibition at a local gallery, or I don't know, there are other ways there are other prizes that you could do that is not specifically cash. So also think around that, so that yes, there's a cash value, but you could also say approach a local a local print shop, and they could print out X amount of the photographer's works, into like large format images. So there are other kind of prizes that you could offer that is not necessarily cash based. And we try not to, with the Wikimedia movement is not so pleased about having cash prizes, but we know that there's only one way we can do that as the international team, because of the multi country kind of disbursement that we have. But there might be something local that would work for you, and you might be able to get donations from local communities in order to support that, so that they get visibility as well if you have a launch, if you have a winners event, or during the press release or the media frenzy that you're going to do once you have winners. Okay. So the third idea is around what those categories, the prize categories, what's important for the judges to look to. So what does each judge need to consider beyond quality and beyond encyclopedic value? What else do they need to consider in order for to get to wade through all of the other images in order to then get to the final image, or the final video, or the final audio? So video and audio are normally easier to judge, because the distance between quality and quantity, and good quality and bad quality, or general quality, mediocre quality, is quite obvious. But with photographs, sometimes it's quite difficult. And I think if you're going to have, say, a traditional representation of traditional culture, then you have to be specific that it has to include blah, blah, blah. If it's about gender, something about gender, and I'm only using these examples, you then have to include a specific criteria that it should have women or whatever who's being represented. Let me let Kano in. But within the photographs, and just doing top use, even if it's top quality photographs, so first, second, and third place photographs, in some cases you have to be quite specific, because it's not just about how beautifully framed or how interesting the photograph itself is, because many people also have different ideas about what that is. So some people are much more drawn to, say, a human interest image, whereas others are more drawn to a more art more arty or vague, more representative or more emotional kind of image. And so you need to be like very clear to the judges about how they should view the images and what to you as organizers is a valuable and quality image. So I don't think you have to say it has to be this with, within blah, 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 but I think you do have to, like, what is an encyclopedic image? It's going to be on Wikimedia. So if it's too arty, if it doesn't actually show what it's trying to represent, if it doesn't give an encyclopedia, makes the subject matter visible, if it's not clear, if it's all blurred because that's arty, then you can't see that, then it might not be a good example to go forward as a winner, even if it's beautiful. If it's not clear, then it's not useful for Wikimedia. Yeah. Okay, so be sure to have a conversation about that with your team so you know what you have, and try and write it down and make sure that the jury that you choose are the one, have an understanding of this. So they have a starting point. It's a good idea to have a meeting with them beforehand, or at least when you email them to get started, so that they have what they're looking for per round as well. And we'll get to that just now. So on those three elements, is there any questions? Are there any questions so far? No? Okay. I'm obviously astonishing you with my run through of this. Right, so then the next step, number 4, is to choose the jury. And it's very much an important part, because the balance, it depends on how many you choose. It's a good idea to have an odd number, not an even number. So if you can have 3, 5, 7 jury members, I think if you don't have more than 500 images, if you have less than 500 images, I would keep it to 3 or 5. Probably 5 is a good number. If you have over 500 and I would keep it up to 7. And if you have over 1,000 and more, then I would keep it like 9, 11. So if you want, the reason why I say an even, not an even number, but an uneven number, an odd number, is so that because when people disagree, you don't want a deadlock. Okay, and it's less likely to be a deadlock the bigger the number is. But in the final round, which we will talk about when we get there, we want people to agree, to be able to agree, but people, because they have different visual wants and they have things that they prefer, visually, especially photographers, they are definitely very independent in how they view the world. And so they will like one picture over another, and you don't want to have a deadlock where everyone agrees, where there's like a 4-4 split or a 3-3 split in like, 3 of them want this and 3 of them want that, and then you've got nobody to make a deciding vote. So try and keep it uneven, try and keep it an odd number. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Yes?
Yes.
Awesome. All right.
Yes, that makes sense.
Good, good. So in order to choose the jury, what we like to suggest, and it's absolutely, of course, it's up to you guys, but what we do suggest is that you have local professional photographers, so people who understand context. So at least say 1 or 2 of those. And then if you can include a filmmaker or another creative, that's also good. Another option is to have a specialist in the theme. So if it is, if we had music and dance, which was one of our themes, you could have somebody who was a an artist or a dancer or somebody like a local director maybe who would understand the elements of dance and music better as a visual representation. Yeah. So that's a good consideration, but it doesn't always make sense. Sometimes it doesn't work. If you have to have a professional photographer locally, as I said, it's a nice way of bringing in new people. It's a nice way of getting the professional people to understand, because I think in some ways they don't understand some of the licensing issues. They don't understand what we're trying to do. And it's a nice way of bridging that gap and maybe developing a longer term relationship with them. And also try and get at least one or two members from within the Commons, people who understand Commons. So they could be a Wikimedian, but it would be preferable if they had knowledge of Commons. And there are, I'll share the link with you. We have a few people who are very helpful, who really want to be on a local jury. So they could be from Sweden, or they could be from South Africa, or they could be from, I don't know, from Madagascar, but they will happily act as a jury member because of their knowledge and their experience, and share that with you. So it gives somebody on the jury who's not the organizer and who's not a competitor the ability to share like some of the more nuanced issues that we come on with Commons. Yeah, so some of that allowed to feedback on those kind of elements. Does that make sense?
I want to ask a question here.
Yes, Mara.
Is it you said that there are some jury members that can be volunteered or want to participate in some local events? That mean we can ask them to be one part of our national jury member, or they can help to address the perspective and to illustrate things to our jury members.
No, so they are happy to be a jury member. I don't think they want to be involved in organizing or in onboarding or helping, but they're very happy to be an organizer. I mean, not an organizer, they're very happy to be on the jury.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, does that make sense? Sorry, I wasn't clear.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. And of course, yeah, so the elements that you need to consider when you're choosing your jury is it is voluntary. So many professionals, obviously, it's their time, their experience, they'll ask for money, but you have to be clear this is a voluntary kind of community project. They should not be paid to be jury members, okay? There should be no expectation that they have any kind of benefit apart from being visible and being seen to be a jury member, which should be a benefit, but they just be very clear up front that they're getting nothing else out of this. It's fine to have give them a bottle of, of some flowers or a thank you card or something like that. That's absolutely fine, because there's a lot of time that they spend, and but there should be no expectation of getting money out of this process. So be very clear up front. They also should have a Wikimedia account. So even if they haven't yet, they need to have one. They need to join and at least have that going. They should have some, as you know, photographic or visual experience. And it's helpful if they speak the same language. So if they all speak like English or French or whichever local language, Ibu or Swahili or whatever, but have a shared common language, because at some stages you'll have to be able to communicate, not only with them, but hopefully with each other, because we'll talk about that just now. Be aware that there is a time element, that they will have peaks where they will need to go through X amount of images, and it will take time. It's not something like they're only going to have 10 images to view and it's going to be a 5-minute, this one and this one and this one. It's going to take time. It takes at least, say, 5 to 7 to 8 hours, especially the bigger pool of images. You know, if you have a bigger pool of images, you can share the images amongst you, but it still does take time for people to go through it. And if they're new to Wikimedia, then the whole onboarding and getting them to understand how the tool works and all of that, it can take a bit of time. They should also, yeah, you need to also decide on how's the best way of coordinating with each other. Do they answer emails? Would they prefer WhatsApp? Are they on Telegram? Like, find sense the jury that you've chosen and have agreed to each other, but also for you to be part of that conversation. Okay, so you can answer their questions. You can also talk to them. So how we do it is we have a Telegram group that we communicate directly, and people can chat amongst themselves. But everything official, like criteria and the deadlines and the dates and the links and all of those things, go in email so that they can then respond, you know, so they can refer back to it. Whereas something like Telegram, that message has gone and it's difficult for new people to see that. So you can use a variety of different methods in order to communicate. Is there anything about the jury kind of onboarding process yet? No?
No, not yet.
Okay, good. All right. So this brings me to conflicts of interest. And so what we have had in the past is when an organizer will be on the jury and then his photograph also gets chosen as one of the top or second contest. So it's very important that the jury should be independent of the competition. They shouldn't be an organizer, okay? So even if you are like a Pulitzer prize-winning photographer and also the organizer of this contest, you shouldn't be on the jury if you're an organizer, because you don't want to influence their decisions. What you can do is you must support them, but you shouldn't have any undue influence on what the final decision should be, okay? Especially if you have images in the contest. It shouldn't be a family member. And if you have an uncle, which you're lucky to have an uncle who is a prize photographer, you need to make sure that that is clearly stated. You know, if he is a prize-winning photographer, that's absolutely fine and good for you. But you need to make sure that it is pretty obvious to everyone that why he has been chosen. He's been chosen for his professionalism rather than just because he's your uncle. Okay? Same with all sorts of other extended family members that we have across with us. And then organizers, you should be aware that the jury members should be aware that if they are part on the jury, if they have contributed or entered, their contributions will not be winning. So every year we go back to winners of the international prize and ask them to be on the international jury. And sometimes, but we're very clear that if they come onto the jury, they won't be winning the final prize. And it's up to them whether they want to decide to be on the jury or not. So it's up, you know, but they have to make that choice. But they're not disqualified, but it is it is a discussion that needs to be had. And if you're a jury member or organizer, you cannot win. You should not win. It's just not something that's it's like the worst practice in the world. And it makes people look at us, the whole contest, the whole international contest, sideways if one of the organizers has won, prize has won. Okay? So just be very clear about that. Just be very clear. Just so you know. Do you guys want to talk about that? What I've just mentioned? Any questions about what I've just said?
Well, for me, I think this one is clear because I was part of an organizing team last year
Yeah,
for I think Wiki Loves Monument. So while at the national level, that is, we organize that at our local level. So at the national level, one of my photograph got selected among the best photographs. So and there was a prize for it. So when the news broke out, people were like, okay, how could this be? This person is part of the organizers, and then at the end of the day, he is among the prize-winning pictures. So I now have to let them know that the ones we organize is a local event, where the one I won is a national event. But yet,
yeah,
I found it difficult for people to believe. So even at this current one that is ongoing, that is why you see I have to join this session right now, so I could understand better
yeah,
how these things
absolutely.
are better done. So that
Yeah.
I don't want to get myself involved in any of this. And I've made it clear that I know even in our meta page, we have stated there that none of the organizers will be part of the winners, even if your image is one of the best. So we have made that very clear. And for me, joining this session now, I've got to understand quite a lot. And I must say, thank you very much for this.
Yeah, so the thing is that so you might not win at the local level, okay? Because obviously if you're an organizer, then your image won't be considered at the local level. But if you are, but it will be considered at the international level. So it's because, unless of course you join the jury at the international level, but if you are not on the international jury, then it will be considered. So it doesn't take you out of the running of the international, just like you won the national prize, even though you weren't included in the local. So I'm sorry that you went through that because you understand firsthand how muddy that looks to everyone and how people get so like irritated and worried and then also angry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do,
So thank
really.
you for sharing that, Friday, because I know I can imagine that it must have been awful for you because it was that next stage, but many people didn't understand that. Maram, do you have a question?
Yes, I want to ask, as the experience of Friday, do you not recommend that the organizers also themselves to upload images for the contest? Or they should like ask the jury to omit their images from from the competition? Also, I want to ask also about you mentioned in the second point that the family members should not be part of the organizers, should not be part of the jury. I don't understand why. Maybe if the organizers are not participating in the contest, one of their family members, if they are like of some photo contest or some photo experiences, why they cannot be part of the jury of the national contest.
I don't mind necessarily if you have if your uncle or aunt, if your aunt is a photojournalist and wants to be on the jury, brilliant. That's fantastic. If they are experienced in photography or have some track record of professionalism within the creative arts, then that's absolutely no problem because you should be able to write what their experiences is. So if you have 5 jury members next to the 5 jury, each on your national page for Wiki Loves Africa, you should be able to say this, so and so is a fine artist who has exhibited extensively with so and so and has published their photographs in blah blah, that kind of thing. If you So it shouldn't be a problem if that jury member is a family member, but I do think it's important if you are an organizer for you to say, related in some way, so that it's apparent that you are being clear about your association. If
Okay.
you don't have any photographs in the contest, if you're not putting photographs forward as an organizer, and just to be clear, organizers shouldn't be included in the local level, because you can turn it off. If you're using the montage tool, you can turn that organizer photos are not seen. If that's the case at the local level, then that's not a conflict of interest, you know, because they are not then reviewing your photographs and potentially putting them first, you know, and so therefore if you won, even though the jury was independent, it would still have a bad, people would go, oh, well, you only won because your aunt got like the deciding vote, you know? So it just stops all of that like murky kind of did they, didn't they, was there, you know, people can be horrible, especially if there's money involved. So it just stops any of those kind of like misunderstandings. And for you not to have that the experience that Freddie had, even though he was absolutely fine because it was a national decision, not a local decision. Yeah, so there was no conflict of interest for him there, but people just didn't understand it.
Okay.
Okay, so it's more of a way to protect you locally from that, but also so the whole contest doesn't get these things of, oh, it's just another way for local organizers to, you know, pocket the money or whatever. You know, there's always those people.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Welcome to those who are newer here. So just moving on, we were just talking about conflicts of interest. Is there anybody else who wants to raise anything or ask for clarity about what we've just talked about? Nope. Okay. All right. So then the next one is the jury platform, which is Montage. So the majority of us use Montage. And Montage is a entirely Wikimedia tool. It's not anything, nobody else could use it apart from Wikimedia Commons spaces. And how it works is you go onto Montage and you request that they do that they load up Montage for you. Now, I have a few videos that I will share with you. I've done this montage talk quite a lot. I don't want to necessarily go through it again, but what we will do is I will share those videos with you so you can see how the process works. So you'll be able to see how you know, how things work, how the jurors choose things. You can see how, if you've never used Montage before, it will allow you to know everything. So I will share that that video just now. But what we have done since doing that video and since doing that training is that now we will share a table for you to put the information in. Because what happened is that it's a little bit, you go onto this, what you request, and then the volunteers who are doing, who are setting it up for you in the back end onto the Montage tool, then get something like 58 or 36 different requests at different times. And so what we want to do is just all make it very easy by creating a table so that they can just set it up really quickly and they know absolutely what's happening. So we will do that, share that in the next 2 weeks before the end of the month, so that you can start loading your request for Montage, for the Montage platform ahead of time. Okay? Does that make sense? Let me just get the Montage thing up.
I've also shared something on the chat, Isla, but I'm not sure if that's the correct link.
Let me check. Sorry about that. Let me just double check. Yes, That's perfect. That's exactly the thing. Thanks, Nani. So that is basically the jury. This is a previous jury, but the montage elements are definitely exactly how they work. So please have a review of that. I don't want to double time, with the same thing. If you have any questions, obviously ask it on the Telegram, and I will respond. And Hilary and the team will also be there, and other people who have experience will be able to help. Do you have any questions on that now? Or about the montage experience? The reason why we ask for people, the jurors, especially the professional photographers, to have Wikimedia accounts is because in order to be able to access the backend, in order to access the tool, you need to have a Wikimedia tool account because it has an OA or an OAuth kind of requirement. Okay, so that's the reason why we request that. There are other tools, or you can absolutely do I don't know, you could do it on a rating. You can do it your own way if you wish. On the document that we're going to share, which is on Meta, which is the jury's guideline, there are links to other tools that are below. And there are actually other jury tools within the Wikimedia space. But we found montage to be the easiest. It's not perfect, and I'll talk about that now. So any questions about montage or the platforms? Okay, so let me just talk through the kind of the selection rounds. So what happens on montage is, they have 3 different ways of engaging with the material. And they suggest, and we absolutely agree, that the first one the first round is a yes, no. So it's basically just a cleaning round. It should be like, this is horrible, it shouldn't be here. And this is it's okay, but I don't want to look at it too closely now. Or this is fantastic. Yes, of course, it must go through. So anything that's if you're looking at a scale from say 1 to 5, anything that is with 1 being like terrible quality and 5 being outstanding, then anything that is in the 1 to 3 area should probably stay as a no, okay? But anything that's 4 and 5 should be a yes. Does that make sense? So that's the kind of general kind of idea. And it's basically a quality assessment. It's very quick, and it's to get rid of the terrible stuff so that you can then give mediocre but very clear and very descriptive versus outstanding, and so that you can give a bit more of a balance. And unfortunately, at the moment, it's probably about 20%, 80%, 20% quality, 80% that's not particularly quality. And hopefully different countries have very different, because of the balance of how and who is contributing. So sometimes you will get a country that it's more 80% absolutely outstanding photographs and 20% kind of mediocre photographs and like 1% terrible. So, it just depends on who is contributing and how that community has developed the relationship with local photographers, that kind of thing. Okay. The second, once you've got rid of the majority of the not interesting photographs, you then have the second round, which is a rating round. And that's where you actually come in with, is this a 5, which is absolutely outstanding? Or is this a 3, which is, it's interesting and it's mediocre? Or it's very interesting, but it's not outstanding. And then there's a 1, which is, it's not really interesting and it's not very outstanding. So you kind of, it's another way of kind of, so then hopefully again, the 4 and 5 rated ones go through to the next round. And it's how montage does it. It's all on mathematical kind of averages, basically. It averages out. There's absolutely no there's no visual understanding of the tool. It's only based on like the mathematical averages of each of the jury, and then they average across. So you'll sometimes get like an interesting but but not outstanding image being the top prize or top rank in that round, because it's been ranked a certain way, or it's been highly kind of like mediocre ranked by more people, but it's not been, if you know what I mean, it's just like a different, a specifically different thing. And in the third round, you basically pick up and you put what do you think you should consider first, second, third. So you try and reduce it down then to the top 20, and you'll see how to do that in the video. Top 20 or top 30, depending on how many images you have. And then the jurors rank which should be not placed first in their opinion, and which should be placed 20th in their opinion. And once they've done that, you should possibly, I suggest, most people stop at the third round and they choose whichever the math says is the top ranked thing. But I don't think that allows for any creative thought or creative sensibility. And so for me, the final decision should be the top 10 images, and then the jury themselves decide in a conversation that those are the final pieces. But I think that's up to you how you do it. But I found that because the final call on that third round for montage is a mathematical decision, not a creative or a visual decision, that almost all the jurors don't like the final chosen image from the montage. So it's kind of because it's a law of averages. So so I think having a final discussion is great. It also means that because all of the montage work is very solitary, they're only doing it like space to space, thing to thing. Having a discussion or having a meeting or having an online meeting, whether it's in person or online, is a nice way of people to also get to know the other jurors on the jury. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained it properly.
Yeah,
Yes, for me,
it's clear.
that makes sense for me.
Good. As long as you're all still with us, that's fantastic. All right. So then now you've got your images and everyone's very happy. Now what? So the idea is you can host an event, but you don't have to. It's up to you. It's up to what you want to do. Sometimes we can't host international events, but we do try to say put an exhibition on at Wikimania or have them featured at Wikimania. We do try to have also at Wiki Indaba, so that there's a celebration of the international work. But as a local community celebrating local photographers, it's much easier for you guys to have an event if you wish to, and if you have the budget for it, or if you have the partners that will host it. So it's up to you. Please share it everywhere. So make sure that it's shared on Commons, in the Wiki Loves Africa spaces. Tell us about it. Make sure it's shared on social media. Create a press release, send it out to the press. Make sure the press knows locally. As I said, document it on Commons and tell us so we can also share the joy. Okay. And we also have a page which is all the national winners. So we really would advise for you to also include on that. Include the top 3 or the top 5 or whatever your prize winners were. Okay. So does anyone have any questions on that? This is essentially everything I've spoken about is pretty much on the National Jury Process Guidelines. Which is on Meta. And then all the images for the credits you can find there on that page. But is there anything that anyone wants to talk about, or any other aspect that you're not clear on? Now's your chance.
Well, I think for me, because of my experience, I guess, I think I've been following everything so keenly. I
Okay.
have a grasp of everything. So thank you very much. Yes,
Thank
everything
you,
is quite
Friday. It's
clear.
lovely meeting you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I'm glad you could all make it. Obed and Tikle and others. As I said previously, if you wish to have on that national jury process guidelines, there are people from the Commons who have experience in Commons who have said that they would be keen to be involved in a Wiki Loves Africa local jury. So feel free to reach out to them. Be aware that they did suggest that a few years ago. So their situation might have changed. So don't get cross if somebody doesn't answer you or they're involved in something else. But also we can also, if you want any advice, please feel free to ask us on the Telegram channel. And we'll try and get a local, not a local, but we'll try and get a commonist, a person from Wikimedia Commons to get involved if none of those people are successful or for whatever reason. Yeah? Good. All right. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for joining me this evening. And we can't wait to see what you guys are coming up with. It's nearly, as I said, it's 11,500 images, and we've still got 2 weeks to go. So it looks like this year is going to be a bumper. And it's lovely spending time with you. So thank you for joining me. And Noni.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. Anna.
Hi.
Sorry, I was still thinking of how to put this question across.
Okay, good. Before I run down to the bye-bye. Okay, go.
Yeah. On the slide about the conflict of interest, I'm still thinking and I'm thinking hard.
Okay, go back.
Right. In a community like mine that you probably have an idea about.
Yes.
I've new people, I've new leaders as well. So I'm thinking the only way of gathering the community is through family members and friends, those close to you. So in such a scenario, how best can we, because these guys that are leading this year are new, they participated for the past 3 years, but this time I said they can at least start organizing a campaign. So I feel like maybe because I've been checking today, they've posted more photos like the previous years, but I've told them before, no, this time you're not participating. So how do you, now looking at the montage tool, if those pictures happen to be the best ones, how are we going to deal with such issues? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
you
it's very
understand?
clear that I do understand. It's very
Yeah.
clear that whoever is organizing or liaising with the jury, I don't think should have their images go forward through the local process. So
Okay.
if Fred is organizing the local jury, then he must understand that his images will not win, okay? Because you don't want to unduly influence the jury or be seen to, okay? So just wait.
Yes.
If you can I can put you in touch because of where you are. I can put you in touch with professional photographers who can who you can get onto and filmmakers who you can get onto the jury. Okay. We regularly have at least one Zimbabwean on the international jury. And last year we had another one who took his place. So we can absolutely do that, and they are tapped into other jurors who could potentially help you, so that there's not that. So then if, say, you submitted a photograph and that won, if you're not the facilitator for the jury, then there's no worry about it, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
Or
yes, and
whoever Bongile or whoever was that, you know, so that there wouldn't be a perception of conflict of interest. But the other thing is that, as I said to Friday, that if you are not able, for whatever reason, because you're either a jury member and you've submitted photographs, but you understand that your images won't be go forward for the national prize, or you're the facilitator of the jury and you understand that your images won't be going for the national prize, they could still win at the international level. If they are outstanding, they could still win at the international level. So there's always that to consider. Yeah.
oh, yeah, that way.
So
That
it
way, I
doesn't
think.
mean that they are obliterated forever and that they just are not going to stand, you know, forward. And in some cases, we're also looking at having, it might not be for this year, but we're looking at in some way of how do we also have like maybe some regional kind of like winners or things like that. But we haven't really decided on that yet. Like, so what the Wilson Prize will be, we're still considering. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think I understand now.
So, you know, it's not all is lost just because you aren't considered for the local prize, you know, but it just in many ways, the reason why we put the conflict of interest, yes, of course, is to protect the Wiki Loves Africa, so people don't think it's just some easy way for people to make money, which it never is. But it's specifically to protect you guys because, you know, people will try to find a way of, you know, when money's involved, they're jealous. If they put in their photograph that came off their cell phone, they then wonder why the professional photographer photo won and why theirs didn't. You know, people aren't rational about those kind of contests. So we don't want to add layers where it's a bit muddy and people don't understand. So I think the idea is just to be very clear. You know, and as I said to Maram, if your aunt is, you know, a world-renowned photographer and she's agreed to be on the thing, that's fine, as long as her credentials are obviously shown on the jury page. So it's a good practice to list your jury, who's in your jury, and connections to their portfolios or to their, you know, what they do, so that at least you're covered in that way. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I understand.
Good.
Yeah, I think we also need to teach our people because they feel like maybe, yes, we might not enter this the country thing, but regionally and internationally they want to. So we need to educate them somehow. So I think
it's not lost. It's just that it's not, you know, just so it's not muddied in the local space.
Yeah. No, I thank you so much. I think we'll talk further.
Yeah, no, it's just more, I mean, if you have the information, you can share it. You know, sometimes people don't think those things through. So they're like, oh no, because I think it's also because things like, you know, Wiki Loves Monuments only takes like the top 10 from the national prizes. And so therefore, if you were excluded from the national prize, you don't get through to the international prize. But that's not how it works for us. We don't do that. We have we have prizes that haven't been viewed before because there are no organisers in some of the countries that the photos come from. So photos that haven't been kind of included in national prizes because there's just no organisers there organising national prizes. So we do everything. We do all of the images that are submitted, they go for review, unless of course they're copy violations or AI or something that's not allowed.
All right. Thank you. It's been
anyone else? Does anyone else have any questions? No? Good.
Thank you, Ayla.
Pleasure. Thank you, Maram. Thanks, Freddie. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And please also make sure that you watch that montage video. Thanks, everyone. We'll be speaking soon.